Hello Internet, and welcome to Retro Nick Relics, a retro video game show where I give you my 2-bit opinion on these 8 through 32-bit relics. Today, I need to set things right.
What did you do?
A few months back, I stated that Osomatsu-kun, haちゃめちゃ劇場, was the worst game on Sega's Megadrive. However, a comment on that video from user Roll7 had me second-guessing myself.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
So I checked out one of his suggestions, which was Sword of Sodan. But is it the worst game on the Sega Genesis? Let's find out in our special limited series, The Worst Game on the Sega Genesis. Sword of Sodan was originally developed for the Amiga computer system in 1988 by Discovery Software. It was praised by critics and audiences alike for its big, colorful sprites. And, yeah, that was about it. Less than favorable reviews also applauded the graphics, but pointed out that the gameplay, quote, didn't live up to the standards set by the aesthetics. The 1990 Sega Genesis port was done by Enterprise Software and featured a number of changes. Most notably, slower speed, totally different control mechanics, and fewer colors, stages, and enemies. Perhaps it's just because the Genesis was more prevalent here in North America, but this is definitely the more nefarious version of the game.
Nefarious works better.
My first impressions were,
Oh no!
But I can see a hint of what they were going for. Before we go there, however, let's talk about the story.
What a story, Mark.
You've heard it all before. Some dude in a tower made of bones wants revenge on a heroic guy, so he kills him, leaving behind his twin children to live with a bitter old man who trains them to sword fight. The old man gives them the Sword of Sodan. But he only had one, I guess, so you get to choose which one of the twins fight their way to Bonerville to defeat Baron von Batty, or whatever his name is. Guess the other one just got good at Russian roulette. Each stage begins with a piece of ancient parchment that outlines the challenge ahead with a little poem, and a look at the map to check your progress. No matter who you play as, you always have these big, meaty man mitts for hands on this screen.
Twist off.
Oh, but don't worry. This is but one fly in an ointment made exclusively of mashed flies.
That's gross!
It looks like a fake game that someone put together for a TV show in the 90s. Sword of Sodan is impressively ugly, but not in the way you'd think. You see, it is technically impressive with its big, detailed sprites, but those sprites are stupid looking.
Yeah, and you're flat!
Yeah, and the backgrounds are ugly and flat, I guess. If you compare this turd to its Amiga original, it's easy to see why that version would have topped review charts for that platform. Sure, the gameplay is slow, but for a home video game in 1988, the graphics were pretty incredible, and the movement was actually somewhat smooth. The Genesis version, on the other hand, has you trapped in a fencer's stance, painstakingly advancing and retreating one agonizing step at a time, while at the same time somehow being able to clear the screen with a single jump.
That doesn't make any sense, Rick!
Combat is actually more nuanced than you would think, and how well you play actually has a lot to do with what tactics you employ. Tapping C performs the default cut maneuver, forward plus C is a thrust, up plus C is a chop, and down plus C is your lower thrust, which is what I ended up resorting to when I couldn't get through a sea of identical-looking pikemen.
I can't stab them all!
Each attack has a range it works in, and you need to select which one will work best for your current situation on the fly. And with the addition of baddies showing up behind you, not present in the Amiga version, You also need to be aware that simply pushing left will only cause your character to retreat backward while still facing forward. You need to press left plus B or C to face backward, and right plus B or C to face forwards again.
Everybody got that?
Now look, these controls aren't overly complicated, but when you've got a million clones attacking you from both sides, it's really frustrating to wait for these slow attacks and even slower turning animation. Your best defense is to jump to the other side of the screen and get them all to your right, which is great most of the time, but sometimes you get yet another wave.
Oh no! Where'd you come from? Oh jeez, nuts to this.
The hit detection feels botched if you don't know the ranges of each attack. And even if you do, it can still offer unexpected results, with your weapon going right through enemies if you stand too close.
I just want to kill this one. Come on! Come on! Oh, for the love of...
A greater knockback animation for baddies would have been great, but what would really be helpful here is a guard button, or God forbid, a parry and riposte, so you can actually defend yourself instead of mindlessly hacking and slashing.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
But hey, they needed that A button for the potions, which newcomers will undoubtedly find themselves confounded by.
Okay, how do I use these potions? Are they just there for show? Oh lord, I might have to reference a manual on this one.
Potions can give you more energy, hit one random enemy, increase your hit damage, or have no effect.
What does this potion do? No effect. Then why am I drinking it?
Yes, the Ethereum potion has no effect, but that doesn't mean it's useless.
More on that later.
If you haven't read the manual, and let's be real, few of us ever do, using potions is not at all intuitive. The devs didn't waste precious memory on on-screen directions. To use potions, you need to pause the game and select the vial with button A. Then, when you unpause, tapping A again will cause your hero to drink the potion. It's not a bad system, but it's confusing to new players.
Eternal, confounded nagging.
Take a game like Splatterhouse 2. There are no on-screen directions, and I didn't read the manual. Yet, I was able to infer that pushing down on the D-pad would pick up a weapon, and the attack button would trigger that weapon. It's an intuitive design that doesn't need to hold your hand and doesn't need to be explained elsewhere. You see, Splatterhouse 2 is a great example of a game that's easy to learn, difficult to master, and, I'm sorry, I got caught up talking about something that I actually enjoy, didn't I?
Get back to work, Stuart.
Remember that Ethereum potion that I mentioned earlier that has no effect when you drink it on its own?
Then why am I drinking it?
Well, that potion can be combined with other potions to give you additional benefits like extra lives, level skips, shields, and a flame sword. It's actually pretty neat, but again, it's not intuitive.
What am I supposed to do?
Potions, it turns out, are really important. Just try getting through this booby-trapped bridge without the shield potion. Yeah, sure, it's possible, but it's just a big old pain in the butt. If the potions system is so important to gameplay, why don't you make it more obvious? All I'm asking for is little clues to help the player along. Do I have to reference virtuosity again?
See, the programmer always gives you a clue. It's a game.
Instead of a traditional leveling system like we've seen in 1989's Kadash, which is a somewhat similar game, except it's, playable.
Bang, bang, bang.
You have a hit strength attribute that starts at 37.
37.
I'm 37?!
Going to class.
Oh my god.
Which can be increased up to 99 by drinking Vitalium potions. I mean, this seems like a great idea, until you realize that dying brings your hit damage back down to 25, or 12 points lower than the 37 you started with. I'm sorry, but this is like taking 2 steps forward and then taking one giant... Seriously, there's no end game to building up your hero. You're just trying to survive for a little bit longer, which is anyone's guess why. Because...
I hate it here! I want to go home!
I hate the graphics, I hate the sound, I hate the control, and
I hate
these unstoppable waves of enemies coming in from both sides. It wouldn't be a deal breaker if I just moved a little bit faster and, God forbid, had a block button.
But Retro Nick, you're acting like the game is completely unfair. Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
On stage 5, there's a hidden pit that you fall into with absolutely no warning. Until it's too late. Then you're presented with the very helpful warning, watch out for pits. Gee, thanks game. That's super helpful.
Oh, by the way, I was being sarcastic.
You know, if you're gonna put a warning like that, why not save the memory, save a life, and make the pit look even slightly different from the rest of the floor? Oh, but having a bottomless pit, well, I guess the pit with a very low bottom. You know, like the definition of bottomless is...
Get on with it!
There's a pack of 2-story tall warriors just on the other side of this pit. You know, the same ones I couldn't figure out how to hit the first time I played this train wreck.
Come on.
I'm too far to hit them from where I am, and if I try to get closer, bam! Into the pit. According to a guide written by the Spelunker on GameFAQs.com, this is the level you skip using the Ethereum potions. Maybe there's bosses, I don't know. All I've seen is wave after wave of uninspired digitized pike, axe, and big clubmen, and the weird floaty penguin demon things that shuffle the letters around in the Hall of Fame.
How big are the scores in this game? How many points does one person possibly need? I don't even know where these numbers are going.
So, what do I think? Sword of Sodan suffers from the same issues that plagued similar games of its time. The Kung Fu and Rastin 2 on the PC Engine were also combat games that featured huge, detailed sprites that don't move around very well. It was enough to get critics and tech heads buzzing, but it wasn't very fun for anybody. You move very slowly, combat is a chore with waves of seemingly invincible, identical-looking soldiers coming at you from both sides, and they had the nerve to add surprise deaths into the mix. Still, it's not all completely awful. I actually like the potion system, and I think it adds a unique element to the gameplay. I also don't mind the combat system itself. It's actually a lot more sophisticated than other hack and slashers of its era, to include...
Are you off your meds or something?
All I'm saying is that there is a system, you can figure it out, and it's still not worth playing. That's why I give Sword of Sodan for the Sega Genesis 3 pointless potions out of 10. So yes, as a bad Genesis or Megadrive game, it just edges out Osomatsu-kun. But is it the worst game on the Sega Genesis? Tune in next time to find out.
But wait, there's still more.
Here comes a new challenger!
It's time for the Retro Nick Mailbag, the part of the show where you get to be heard. Here's what you had to say about my review of Splatterhouse 2 for the Sega Genesis. DeFrog491 writes, I always had a liking towards Splatterhouse 2, but was never too good at it. Those jumping, screaming motherfuckers always creeped me out. Till this day, I would not play that alone at night. Oh man, I know exactly what you mean. But just the other day, I was playing Splatterhouse. Sludge Queen got a little bit catty when they wrote, Ugh, gotta love using AI to make your thumbnails. I'm sorry, who are you even? How else could I respond? I'm Retro Nick.
And you'd be too if you were me.
Very funny, I'm sure. Still using AI though.
I don't care, I don't care. My jokes don't go over, I don't care. Everybody!
Finally, version 43 opines,
Great review. Hilarious as always. I really hope the Retro Nick Mailbag is a recurring segment.
I'm prepared to make that sacrifice. What if you don't want to know how far I'll go?
As usual, I want to give my standard shout out to my friends over at Retro Game Squad, who you've heard from in my review of Street Fighter the movie for the Sega Saturn. You can also hear me on their show from time to time, where I sometimes weigh in on even more garbage like Sword of Sodan. You can find their show at RetroGameSquad.com or follow them on Twitter with the handle @RetroGameSquad.
Is it over?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Retro Nick Relics. If you liked this video, please be sure to slap those like and subscribe buttons, and tune in again to find out what I dig up next. I'm Retro Nick.
And you'd be too if you were me.
What's going on here? They stole all the letters and numbers? Now they're taking them. What's with the rainbow? Okay. This is so painful. I'd love to meet the guy who thought this was a great idea. Hey, you know it'd be really cool? Well, all these like flying moth maggot things with the red eyes just kind of float in and steal the score. And then put it back piece by piece, and people can watch the rainbow gradient on the Hall of Fame text if they get bored. How big are the scores in this game? How many points does one person possibly need? I don't even know where these numbers are going. Okay, so that 2 was there. How long can they possibly do this? Okay, we don't have all day. We're skipping this. Like, the laughter's taking video. I don't know about the rest of this. Maybe this will be a secret video for